Hi, this is Triggered Care, and I'm Alex. This video is going to be... Alright, first of all, major trigger warning for child sexual assault survivors and anybody. Pretty much a trigger warning for anybody. I'm going to be talking about pedophilia and the time that I thought I was a pedophile. So, be very warned about the content and all of that. And as a disclaimer, pedophilia repulses me to my core with my own personal experience with it and surviving being molested and raped by pedophiles. I hate it to my very core, but I feel like this discussion needs to be had. And not that it's an excuse in any way for I can't even describe how much I hate pedophilia. But it's not to be an excuse for it. This video is more of my own introspection on it and kind of the thought processes that I've had about it since I was younger. So when I was 13, 14 years old, around that age, I was just hanging out with my little sister, who was 3 or 4 at the time. And what happened was I had a flashback. But back then, I didn't know what flashbacks were. I didn't know that I had PTSD at all. And I had a flashback with her, playing with her, of, it was very graphic. And the image depicted in my head, the flashback image that I flashed back to, was very concerning. I had repressed all these memories, so I didn't know that they were repressed memories. I mistook that flashback for my own fantasy because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I became very sad, and I mourned for a while because I thought that meant that I was a pedophile, because I had these gross, terrible images in my head, and not only images but like a little video clip of a man masturbating a toddler. And even though it was from my own point of view, me, the toddler, with whatever, I didn't know. I didn't know that was a memory. Because how flashbacks work is they're almost like a movie that you see while you're awake. And so when that happened to me with my sister while we were just hanging out, I was devastated. I was so sad. And then, I vowed, I'm never gonna hurt a kid, but goddamn, why did I get stuck with the pedophile gene? And then I repressed it after a few weeks, and it didn't bother me again for a while. And then I got to therapy good and early, and I kept busy, and I didn't think about that stuff for a while after that. But it made me wonder, it made me wonder about other survivors of child sexual abuse, and if they didn't have the resources to go to therapy, if they didn't have the resources to even figure out that they have PTSD, and if they had flashbacks like I did, they're not gonna know what's going on, and they might assume the same thing that I assumed, is, oh shit, I'm a pedophile, because of these gross images in my head that is revolting to me. And then what would happen if they left that untreated and grew up into their adulthood? And because what we do with trauma, especially unprocessed trauma, is we will repress it, and it will cause all these negative symptoms to start popping up, and then we will try to replay that trauma and make it work in the trauma cycle that it's in. So Men are more likely to be shamed for emotional distress, causes repression that can churn into extreme shame and guilt. With no options for relief, they're going to start replaying the trauma and they're going to try to fix it. And unfortunately for male sexual assault survivors, replaying the trauma might mean that they start doing that to children that they know. And like I said, this is not an excuse at all. I find pedophilia abhorrent. You know, if you have this issue, you need to seek medical help. You need to seek professional help in order to get rehabilitated. Once a person crosses that line of morality to hurting a child, you know, rehabilitation becomes much harder to achieve. And my empathy for them kind of dissipates at that point because you crossed a line and you hurt a child. And that is not okay. That will never be okay for me. So I just want to fucking put that out there. I am not in any way defending pedophiles. However, I am saying that with our stigma against mental health, along with our stigma against men receiving mental health services, this is going to make the problem worse. So how can we kind of alleviate some of these problems? And it's not by forgiving pedophiles, I can tell you that much. It's not by being like, oh, well, he was probably molested too, so it's okay. No, that's not fucking okay. But one thing we can do is encourage gender equality, actual gender equality, where it is acceptable for men to have feelings, you know? And you need to do this in your personal life and in your public life. Whenever you hear the macho man sort of shame and judgment going around, we need to start calling that out. We need to start calling it out. Hey, first of all, men have feelings. And second of all, that's okay. Of course men have feelings. I don't know who started this myth that men don't have feelings, but that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. They're human beings. Of course they're going to have feelings. And then number two, something that we need to realize, men can be rape survivors too. And by no means are all male rape survivors pedophiles. That is not what happens. You know, it's not, oh, well, that man was raped, so now he should be locked away because he's a pedophile. We just need to be open enough to talk about it so they can have their survivor communities. They can have their recovery communities where they can feel heard and understood instead of letting it manifest into this evil that it does. Because it is evil. And I don't... When you sexually assault a child, that is an act of evil. There's no other way to put it. I don't see things in black and white very often. Pedophilia is one of those things that is just bad. It is just fucking evil. And I think a lot of people will agree with me on that. I don't think I'll have a lot of backlash. Oh my god, Alex said pedophilia is evil. Yeah, I do think it's evil. But I think it's important to look at the possible origins of how it happened. So then for future generations, we can learn, okay, we need to make sure that men feel heard and that they are not shamed for being survivors of sexual assault. So they're not shamed for having feelings, you know, like, and I'm not an I'm a feminist. I'm a full-on feminist over here. But what that means is I believe in gender equality, and part of that is bringing men into the group of it's okay to talk about your feelings, and it's okay that you have feelings. And I feel like that is a way where women are more privileged than men, is that women are more allowed to have feelings and to talk about them. And yeah, we get made fun of for it, but maybe they're making fun of us because they're really not allowed to have feelings with all of the societal stigma around it. You know, they don't want to be a pussy, they don't want to be wimpy or any of that stuff, when that's hurting us. That really is hurting us in the long run. because then these men are going to be more resentful. They're going to be more filled with anger and just unprocessed feeling. And what happens to unprocessed trauma? It churns and it turns into this really dark, evil manifest of terribleness. So we need to figure out a way of how to cut down on that, on how to help more men out of that, so then they don't go into the evil world of, cycling out their trauma and causing more trauma for the people around them. So this was my video about pedophilia, and like I said a number of times, but that's just because I don't want to come off as like I'm defending pedophiles. I'm not. But if we're going to be realistic about getting better and cutting down on the number of pedophiles in the world, we need to talk about how it happens. And not that this happens with every pedophile. I'm not saying every pedophile was raped and molested as a kid and we need to feel bad for them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying with my personal experience, I can definitely see a path that would happen from a man getting raped, having to repress it for many years, and then that churning into a very evil, toxic cycle that he falls into. So, just some food for thought. My Discord links are all down below, the one for CPTSD and the one for Triggered Care. My Facebook is down below, along with my email. If you have a story that you want me to make a video on, feel free to message me. You can always comment down below. Your thoughts, your feelings, all of that. So I'm gonna let you go now. So have a good one.